Welcome to our 105 Town Hall with the Experts. It's March 11th, 2020, and we have a guest here today who is not only an EXP agent, but he's also an investor. And I thought it would be great if we could give you guys a look into the mind of an investor and how they look at properties. So, Jason Jatia is here with us, and he's been a full time real estate agent since 2015. He's licensed in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. He's a certified mentor to 9 new EXP agents, and he used to be a licensed contractor in the DC and Maryland areas prior to being in real estate. He specializes in assisting sellers who fix up their properties and list them. However, in some extreme cases, he also purchases them outright and flips them himself. In the last 18 months, he's done 5 flips. All of his flips from purchase, rehab, and sold have been in 90 days or less. So today he's going to focus on 2 case studies where he's going to show us the before and after renovation pictures with the profit and loss on each one of those. So I will let you take it away, Jason.
Okay, thanks, Julie. Everybody hear me okay? Is that good, Julie?
Yeah, you sound great.
Perfect. Okay, well, as Julie said, I come from with a unique perspective because I was a contractor, licensed contractor for 15 years. I look at real estate as not only do we help people buy and sell houses, we're a problem solver, and I think to be a great real estate agent, that's a key component of our job is to solve problems. And so when I'm coaching new agents, the big thing that I always ask them, that I always tell them is, you need to ask questions, ask questions, ask questions. So as we go over these case studies, I want to encourage you guys to do the exact same thing. You can feel free to interrupt me if you'd like. I feel like this is kind of a smaller setting. So the idea is that I want you to ask as many questions as you have. And my goal on this talk is really show you some people don't have an idea of what a flip looks like, the pre-stages of a flip. I've met some agents that if the house isn't quite exactly what they think cosmetically, they think, oh my gosh, it's a flip. No, there's a certain way that a flip looks, and if you're scared to go into a house, generally that's a good candidate. So if it smells, if it looks scary, those are all elements that you want to see. And as a real estate professional and somebody that deals with express offers, you don't have to be a flipper like I have in the past or have that construction experience. We have the system here to be able to be a platform for you, that skill set, to be able to link the seller the right with the right contractor to be able to do that and to allow them to have an all cash offer. Okay.
Okay.
So that being that being said, wanted to go with our case study. So let me get to our slides here. And this first one, turtle dove. Okay. This was in some parts of the country, you might not have townhouses. We have a lot of townhouses here where I live, also single families, of course, and condos. This started out as a 3 bedroom, 1 full bath, and unfinished basement. And this is what turtle dove looked like. So on here, I'm going to point out some things that I'm going to show you right off the bat that we'll come back to on the after, and then we're going to look at the profit loss as well. So when you look at this first page, I want you to look at the concrete steps. And also on the left-hand side, you won't be able to see it yet, but we're going to show you gutter on the left-hand side. I'm going to show you a trick on that on the finished product. But you can't get a good perspective at the top of these stairs. There was about a 6-inch gap. So any home inspector would have flagged that. And all these steps were just crumbling after years of salt. Salt will significantly decrease the integrity of the concrete. So these all had to be ripped out. But I want you to pay close attention to that. Um, on the next one, this is what a house typically looks like. And before I show you what these look like, this was somebody that I knew very well in my church, actually. And so this people were living here. Okay. um, on this living room, this is partially cleared out at this stage. I want you to pay attention to this beam. I don't think you can see my cursor here, but the beam in the middle of the room, also on the second photo to the right, that shelving and also those stairs. We'll show you what we did there. This is the kitchen, as you can see, getting some of the debris in bags and so forth. You'll see on the left-hand side the photo, which is that's the pantry. On the
Sorry, I got a
left-hand side,
black
where
screen with nothing on it.
So you need
Sorry to
to,
interrupt,
it's
Jason.
okay. Yeah, up on the top corner there, there's like a little magnifying glass and the little round circle. If you click the round circle, that's to refresh your screen, and that should help you see what's on there. It might take a second, but just click that refresh the screen, and then it might work better.
clarification, Julie, does everybody need to refresh or just certain folks?
Usually it's just certain people, and I have no idea why it does that, but
Okay.
hopefully everyone else can see. Can you guys see? I can, so.
I can see.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes, I can
Yeah.
see.
Good.
Great.
Yay.
So so this was not the very first flip I did. As I started getting into these, I started realizing taking before photos what was helpful. So the photos that you see now, I probably already have a dumpster loaded by the time these photos are taken. So it's not the true pre-photos. The second case study, you'll see that and appreciate it a little bit more. Um, this is another area of the kitchen and breakfast nook. On the left-hand photo, you'll see a wall there, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. And then you'll also see this is an L-shaped kitchen. You'll see kind of left-hand photo on the bottom. There's like a little island there, and that's going to be important too. Right-hand photo is just the where the nook is, and you'll see on the right-hand photo to the right, you can't see those doors there, but you'll see what we do in the after photos. Here's another shot of the kitchen. You can get a pretty good perspective there. Notice all the cabinets too. We'll be talking about those. That wall, you'll see where the dishwasher is on the left-hand side. That's the wall I'm talking about. We're going to address that as well. Also, pay attention to the steps. We do a neat little trick there. And all of these, keep in mind that as a listing agent, I help people fix up their tiles and sell them. Now, in this type of market, we don't really have to do that as much, but 2 or 3 years ago, we definitely did. So techniques that I show you here, you can definitely take to your clients, whether it's somebody that you're going to do on Express Office or if you're a listing agent, just little tweaks. You'll see exactly what we do that can help you when you list houses as well. So here's the master bedroom. Pay attention on the left-hand side, a window there. And then on the right-hand side, this actual property had one bath. And so if you look on the right-hand photo, you'll see on the left of it, or I guess in the rear there, that's a walk-in closet that you would enter in towards the left. You have a little vanity section there with a mirror. And then to the right, you could actually enter into a bathroom that served for the master and then also for the two other rooms, two other bedrooms. So it was a Jack and Jill type bath. And this is what the bathroom looked like. Okay?
Pink.
And here are bedrooms 2 and 3. They also shared the bathroom. And this is the hall bath on the first floor. That looked like. And here's the basement. And a lot of townhouses that we have, the basements are generally finished. So it was a little bit surprising that this was unfinished. That being said, I also bought another flip that the basement was not finished, but I don't really see them very often. But in both of those cases with the unfinished basement, it's fun. It's interesting that the owners actually own them probably since they were new. So I find that with houses that have been occupied for a very long time, and particularly if they were a new build, you might get some basements that are unfinished. Now, why is that important? It's important because when you see the numbers, you'll do the analysis, and when we talk about the profit loss, I really want you guys to have the mindset of what investors look for. So it's very important when you're thinking about the ARV, the after repair value, that I go in thinking, okay, if the house was fixed up just now as a 3 bedroom, 1 bath, unfinished basement, what would it sell for? And I work from that. Okay. That's a very critical step because most people will think, well, if I add a bedroom or if I finish the basement or if I do an extension, then it's going to be worth X. Well, yeah, it could be, and it could also not be. The market could change. So to be very conservative, it's very important to look at what you have and what you can finish it in terms of giving the client the maximum value or starting to tell them the ARV is really important of what do you have that you're working with. And then in terms of the investor, when you finish off the basement, when you add another bathroom, that's all stuff that, or if the market increases, right? Those are all things that really is credit to the investor because that's over and beyond. At least that, as an investor, that's how I look at it. And that gives you some buffer because I've been in a market 12 years ago where it slid on a dime and it takes 8 months to sell a property. So everything's good until it's not. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's the unfinished basement. Here's another. Now, when you look at this basement, take special note of this insulation. That's going to be key on this. All right. So let's go to. I'm going to show you. Okay. So let's. I told you about the ARV. Look at it as is, and very important, not additional bathrooms or bedrooms to be part of that new ARV calculation. Okay, that's just how I do it, and most seasoned investors, that's how they're going to look at it. Okay. Um, Also, critically important, permit, permit, permit. And I'm speaking to you as a former contractor, as an investor, and also as a real estate agent. We'll get into this. Believe it or not, I didn't permit this, and I had to go back and retroactively permit it, and I'll explain why. And I'm glad I did it, and I'll never do it like this again. I can't tell you as a former contractor, there were many times when we finished out a basement that a homeowner might say, "Oh yeah, don't worry about it." Well, the way to really cover yourself in all of this is make sure you just permit everything. It makes you be able to sleep at night. You know, at the end of the day, you've done it right. You've had inspectors check your work. And I use licensed contractors for everything that I do. But I'm so glad that we went back and permitted this because I learned a lot that even as a seasoned former contractor, surprised me a little bit. And at the end of the day, everything checked out and everybody was happy, the buyer, me as a seller, the county, all that stuff. Number three, home warranty. Uh, I started this in the very beginning with the XP. Any flip that I've done, I've always paid for the home warranty for the buyer. And also, again, that extra peace of mind. So if you're going to do flips through EXP, and again, this isn't corporate policy, this is just me speaking, um, always permit, always do a home warranty. You want to be able to sleep at night and know that you've used licensed contractors, you've done everything right, you don't cut corners. I mean, the worst thing to me as a former contractor is going into a rehab, seeing where folks cut corners. Now, there's a difference between cutting corners and being selective on what you renovate. So now we're going to look at the after photos, okay? And I'm going to show you things that we did, things that we didn't, but everything is quality work, okay? So after photos. So couple things here. One, you'll notice on the uh, right-hand photo, you'll see that the concrete, that step, you can kind of appreciate that more with up towards the front door. All of that, plus all the stairs going down, all that was new. That was done in a weekend. Okay. And I did that because I thought I knew a home inspector would catch it anyway. This was back when they were doing home inspections, and it was just a safety issue. Okay. Also, a side note is you'll notice on the left-hand photo, remember I told you about that gutter? Well, you'll see a little hole there towards the left side of the sidewalk. The reason why that hole is there is because I noticed when we were rehabbing this that on the left-hand side, the gutter that comes down on the left-hand side of the house, it just pretty much was just dumping water there. Well, if you notice the grade of the house, you always want the slope of the grade to grade away from the house. Well, in this case, there was nowhere really for the water to go. So just in future preventive maintenance and knowing that the buyer was probably going to do nothing about it, I went ahead and did a little drain with black corrugated pipe that connected the gutter all the way down and daylighted to the right of that sidewalk, so that I knew
So,
that there would never be.
Jason, in the photo there, you're talking about just to the left, so the left-hand side photo, just to the left of the stairs where we see that hole in the grass?
Yep,
Yep.
yep, that's exactly right. Thanks for the clarification. Yeah, and you can kind of, unfortunately, I can't blow that up, but it daylights. So a lot of times when we're in houses, you'll see gutters that will have this black corrugated pipe that goes into the ground, but especially in the rear of the yard, but you'll never see where it daylights. Well, that's a problem because a lot of times grass will grow over top of it and it will clog up the whole system. I did this because I felt that, and I must have seen that the water was just accumulating there, and we never want water to go back into the foundation because you're just asking for problems. Okay. And since I finished the basement, I didn't want there to be a leak. Oh, you haven't seen that I finished the basement yet, but spoiler alert, I finished the basement. And I didn't want it to leak for the water to go in and for it to go behind the walls and you'd never find it. So that's why I did that. Okay. Um, okay, so here's the living room. You'll notice on the left hand side of the photos, kept that little shelf there. And a little trick that we use is we use you can't see it too well, but we use the same exact shelves, but we just dressed it up. The front of the shelf has a 1x2, it's a poplar, so it actually gives the illusion that's a thicker shelf. And so it's a little bit more classy. You'll see this, the beam that I talked to you about in the middle of the room. We didn't touch that, but that's going to be very important. And I'm going to come back to that in a minute. And then you'll see for the stairs how we paint the railings black and then the spindles white. Gives just a nice little touch. When I was doing high-end homes as a contractor down in Bethesda and Washington D.C., I saw that a lot. So I took that to the Gaithersburg, Germantown area where I do a lot of work in the suburbs, and it just classies it up. This flooring is a laminate product. We use that quite a bit. Um, and that. Also, if you don't stage your properties, now of course the market's hot, but I always stage it. And this one, the sale price on this one was actually 285 or 280. We'll look at the profit loss, but I staged them all, and I would recommend if you don't do that to think about doing it. I know other investors don't; they just think the quality of work is worth it. But there's something about going into a nice renovated home. My experience as a contractor, I used to work for builders. So a lot of things you'll see what I do is very much like what builders do. For example, there's no window treatment on any of the windows. Everything is furnished. If the property is on the market, all the lights will be turned on, even at night. Why do I do that? So that when people are walking by, they notice it and they'll tell neighbors. Um, and it's been it's been good. Okay. So here's another shot of the living room, dining room. Notice to the right, remember that door that you couldn't see because it was covered by a curtain? Again, nice front or Anderson doors slider that worked great. You'll notice the light. This is we use what's called a semi-flush recess light, so it just sticks down just a little bit. So on what we're trying to do is achieve high ceilings. So and a surface mount light isn't applicable here, but just a nice little light with a that comes down about 6 to 8 inches is just the profile you want to be able to give that nice look, but you're not stuck with a big chandelier. Okay, so we're trying to emphasize high ceiling, so that's why we do that. Everything here that you're seeing, I work with an interior designer, and so we bounce ideas off of each other. So the paint color selection, this same interior designer helped me buy all the furniture. I warehouse it, and then I stage it all, and then she tweaks it. But it's really important as you're doing the construction to also have the color coordination with it as well, meaning color of the floors, color of the walls, color of the countertops, all that stuff. Here's another shot of the dining room.
Yeah, the stairs look great.
Yeah, and then here's actually the kitchen. So there's a couple tricks here. We obviously swiped out all the appliances for stainless steel. The whole package probably cost about $2,500. Okay. The cabinets, we kept the cabinets exactly the same, except we painted them. And I do that, except for maybe the last renovation I've done. All the cabinets I keep and I paint if I can salvage them.
Did you
Okay.
put
Um,
poles? Did you put poles on this one, Jason, for the handles?
yeah, you can't see that, but I'll do new knobs and in this case pulls.
Mm-hmm.
I will also take the hinges and we'll spray them silver as well.
Smart.
Um, and then we also provide a little bit of tile for the backsplash. And this is the real, stone type tile. You don't want. They sell the stuff that you peel off and stick to the wall. You don't want that. You want the real guy or guy or girl. You want to be able to have the real stuff to do the backsplash. Um, this is a little tricky. So most times you'll want, quote, an open concept, right? So this wall on the right hand side, we actually left it. Now, it is a little tricky because this is a little funky. The only thing really funky in this house is you'll see there was no logical way to really stop that tile. Now the left hand photo looks fine. The right hand photo, you're like, there was no real logical stopping point because this granite countertop, which is also new, goes all the way to the end. Okay, but it worked. Now you'll also know that because we kept these style of the cabinets, we've redone cabinets before, and specifically you'll see like above the stove, like we modified that so that that was just a header piece, and we could put a microwave underneath or above the stove, but that's not, it never had a microwave before, so we had to create that. Okay. And so for this cabinet here, we just left it open so that people could store stuff there. But then if we try to put another door there, you can't really see too much on the detail here, I think, in this presentation, but you wouldn't have been able to find a new door profile that would match the rest of the kitchen, so it would jump out at you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Do
People
um,
you
like to put
spray paint the
cookbooks too.
cabinetry? Oh,
Sorry.
I'm sorry. There's someone else. Go ahead.
sorry, I was just asking. Do you spray paint the cabinets or do you roll paint, like hand roll or
So I don't
paint the
I don't do any of
cabinetry?
this work. I have a general contractor that does, but it's all hand brushed.
Very
And
nice.
to let you know, generally the quote that I get for to do the cabinets, it's generally about $1,200 to $1,500. Okay, and the reason why it takes that long is it's both sides of the door, it's all the frame around, it's prime and painting. There's a tremendous lot of work. I've had one homeowner recently say, "Oh, I'll just paint the cabinets," and I just look at them and say, "That's a 3-day job for somebody that really knows what they're doing." I mean, it's a project.
Yeah.
Um,
And do they take it
yeah.
off, like take them off the wall and paint them, or do they leave them mounted
Oh,
and paint?
yeah. So what they'll do? Thanks for asking that question. They'll take the doors completely off, but they'll leave the frames on there, and so they'll paint the frames in place. Sand, scrape scrape sand, prime, and paint the frame of the cabinet in place, and then the doors they'll paint all. Well, really, it's all six sides, right? It's front, back, and all four sides. So I mean, and think about it. You got to paint one side, let it dry. What does that take? A few hours, maybe. Then maybe the next day you're doing, flipping them over. I mean, it's when we do this. I mean, we take over the whole entire dining room or living room, and they're all laid out on the floor. I mean, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. So it's laborious. But if I replaced all the cabinets, it'd be 5 grand. Okay, and just for the material, not including installation. So when I look at that, I say, okay, yeah, I'll pay the 14 or $1,500 because I know in 3 days it's done, and I don't have to wait 3 weeks for cabinets and then also install them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Again, it's also price point. So this is a good starter home, and chances are most people are going to remodel this kitchen anyway. It looks like I think we added those recess lights as well, just to give you perspective.
Nice.
Okay. That door, remember that pantry door that was just open? We just put a nice little door there. Nice finishing detail. Okay. Remember that scary hall bath, the right hand side? That's what it looked like now. Okay, and we do this in a lot of houses that will fix up and list. Just that light, that light's 40, $60. It's a $20 mirror. That vanity, you can get, I don't remember, maybe 150 bucks, something like that, and toilet's a couple $100. It's not, again, just a little bit of money really transforms that whole entire bathroom. And remember, it had wallpaper all throughout, and we just took that out. On the left-hand side gives you a nice, shot from the back of the kitchen, and it's nice little space.
Yeah, looks
Here's
great.
the master. The master, we installed new windows there. I think there was an issue with the previous window. It might have been fogging or something like that, which is why we ended up doing that. And then obviously carpet throughout.
Hey Jason, what color was that wall? The wall color was, someone asked what the wall
So
color was.
so this might be an important color for you to write down. Edgecomb gray is what we use a lot in terms of our paint color.
How do you spell that? The first word, what was it?
And this carpet, I don't have
Hey Jason, what brand?
um,
Each brand has their own color palette and their own color names. Do you remember what brand?
no, I thought I got a gold star for remembering Edgecomb gray.
That was very impressive, I have to tell you.
Well,
That's very
Jason,
impressive.
maybe Jason can tell us and then I'll put it in the post with the recording.
Yeah. So I think it's either Sherwin Williams or Benjamin Moore. But here's what I do. So I look at my job as an investor. And I almost look at myself as kind of a ringleader, right? I'm like in a circus. I got I got all sorts of different things happening. I got the contractor over here. I got I'm dealing with the electrician or the plumber, and then the interior designer. And then what I do is I make sure everybody has a contact list. So literally, for me, it doesn't even matter what the paint color is. I just tell my interior designer, Jen, I say, Jen, talk to Jose, get on the same page, and that's it. As long as it's exactly what the interior designer wants, and that's all I need. And then I'm building out, as a former project manager as well, is I'm building out a construction schedule. So one thing that's important on all this stuff, if you guys do decide to do the investor route heavy, is make sure that all the players and other people call them stakeholders. I just say all the players knows what everybody's doing. So I used to, when I did commercial construction a long time ago, I used to do Primavera and Gantt charts, MS Project, things like that. Now we did this whole renovation in 3 weeks. Okay. And what I do is I simply just do a Word document, something that I can copy and paste. And I don't do the word attachment. I just literally take it and put it in an email and email it to everybody every day. And then each week I'm updating it so that everybody understands, okay, we're doing permits this day. We have, everybody knows what the other people are doing, and nobody can say, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to come on that day. Okay. Super important. When people get stuck on renovations, it's because they're not communicating enough. And it's not good enough just to pick up the phone. You really got to create a little bit of a paper trail, but things do get done by picking up the phone as well. I mean, you got to be talking to people, but you also got to be giving people a schedule on a weekly basis. And that even includes, once the construction's done, when your cleaners are coming, when the stager is coming, when the photos are happening, so that people know, like, hey, I got to be done on this date because Jason has other work that has to happen after the construction's done. Like, life actually continues, and when the open house is going to be. So that life cycle between dumpster and open house, that all gets spelled out. Okay. Um, so hopefully that's helpful. Good
Yep.
tip. All right. So here's the master bath that we added. Now, if you remember, it was a walk-in bath, and or walk-in closet, and we actually cut it down a little bit. Still kept the walk-in closet, and then we added a master bath, which is a walk-in shower. Okay. Um, okay. See that. All right. So, and here's bedroom one or two and three that are all cleaned up. And then here's the other bath. Remember I told you it was like a Jack and Jill, and it was all pink. Remember that? So
Hmm.
this is all new tile, of course. Again, did we spend a lot of money? No, not really. We added a light, which is actually was a surface mount light. We had to use a surface mount light. There was something going behind this wall that I don't remember, but we couldn't actually. I I can't remember exactly the story. We don't normally do it that way, but we had to in this case. And then again, that mirror's $20. The vanity is maybe a couple $100, and the that toilet's probably a couple $100, and tub's not expensive, and then tile, pretty cheap. Um, and this on the right hand side for the for all the Delta fixtures, maybe that's 100 $200, but not really terrifically expensive, but looks night and day compared to the pink shower, pink bath, right?
Definitely.
And here's the finished basement. And
It has
remember, there was
walls,
yeah, has walls,
a ceiling,
and
lights.
we had yeah we added recessed lights and doors, and then if you look on the right hand side, or I'm sorry, the left hand side, you'll see a column coming down.
Hmm.
That was actually a lolly column, a column to support the actual first floor, and we just boxed that in to make it look nice and clean.
Yeah,
Um,
way different.
Yeah. So on the rear, you'll notice this is something I do that I forgot to tell you in the front as well. I add sod here. So very cheap. It's a couple $100. But having new grass, you don't necessarily get the best perspective in this photo, but having nice new grass, there's something about that with the looking outside that rear door, that sliding glass door, and looking at the grass, it almost feels like you're outside. That gives the illusion that it's like that Frank Lloyd Wrightness type of thing where you feel like the outside's inside. It's in my opinion worth it to have nice new grass and
Do you add
build it.
the sprinkler system like irrigation?
No, 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 no,
Okay.
no. No,
It would die here
just
in Colorado, so you'd have to. Just
well,
curious.
right. So isn't that interesting? Because um, that's a really interesting point. Everything's all relative to where you live, right?
Exactly.
And so here, like you could not plant sod in August. And I have another one where we just seeded and strawed it. And I debated a long time about it. And I talked to another seed investor. He goes, just seed and straw it. I never put sod down. I go, really? He goes, yeah, it's a waste of money. And I did it on all mine. And I actually still like it. And I'll do that except if it's in August. But it sold just fine in
Jason's
August.
actually in Maryland.
Yeah, yeah, thanks for, yep. So August is our tough time. All right, so lessons learned. So I did not permit this in the beginning. Now I disclosed it, and I was upfront and honest, and I made a mistake, to be honest with you. And one of the things that I did was I disclosed, hey, we added basement and a bath, and we had 8 offers over Mother's Day, and I chose an offer that guy was first time home buyer and he was taking it as is and then wrote his agent and had like 30 things that he wanted me to do, and I said no, it doesn't work that way, this is as is. So then he wrote back and said, well, I just like these 10 items done. And then he put a little caveat there that I'll never forget. He said, and I want to be able to pull the permits and inspections after settlement. Okay, well, here's what you need to know on that. That was a huge red flag. Okay, and I knew right then and there that I made a mistake and I needed to go back and pull permits and inspect this because I didn't want to go to settlement and I didn't want to have the liability after the fact of having issues. Okay, and so again, I added a bath and I added a basement. Okay, so based on that, what would you end up doing? Because I was in a precarious situation. And so I basically went back to him and I said, look, out of these 10 items, I'm going to do 4, and I'm going to permit this, and I'm going to do all this. I'm going to do this with or without you. So either you accept this and we're under contract ready to go, or, I'm just going to go ahead and permit and inspect this anyway and put it back on the market. No problem. And in that case, the basement was done. I was willing to rip out the entire basement, open up the ceiling in the kitchen so that the inspectors could look at it. It would have been a $15,000 cost, but I was about ready to pull the trigger and say, this is what I'm going to do because I'm going to make it right. One thing that I'm all about, and it's important if you get into the flipping game, treat people how you would want to be treated. Okay, like do things right. Okay, and to be honest, I made a mistake on not pulling the permits, and I realize that now. I guess as a former licensed contractor, and I was using licensed contractors, I thought as long as I went that route, everything would be done right. Well, um, I found out it wasn't. And what I did is I called the county and I explained the situation. Listen, I screwed up. And the first question they said, "Oh, you're a flipper." And I said, "Well, not really. I've just started to flip a few properties, but I own this personally and I want to make it right." And they said, "Okay." And as it turned out, my general contractor did the electrical and also the plumbing. Okay. Now, as a general contractor in Maryland, you can get away with some of that stuff, but when you're permitting everything, you need to have a separate electrician, a separate plumber, and a general contractor. So I went to an electrician that I knew, that I use regularly on property management stuff, and I explained the situation, and they agreed to pull a permit for me and to inspect all of the work that was done. We did that also on the plumbing side, and we found some things that needed to be fixed. But at the end of the day, I find that if you go back to the county, okay, and this is what I don't understand with flippers that don't do it the right way. Um, if you go to the county with your hat in your hand and say, "I screwed up," which is legitimately what I did. And I think this was like maybe the second flip that I was on a roll starting to do, and one that I actually added a bathroom and a basement. The bathroom was, uh, well, both of them just need to be permitted regardless. Okay, I'm not going to say one was worse than the other, but um, going to the county and saying, "I screwed up. I'd like to make this right. I'm ready to tear out this whole entire basement. What do you think I should do?" And the head of the department said, "No, don't do all that." He goes, "You can open up certain sections and we'll start looking at it that way." And so they did. We cut out sections in the basement. The electrician, because my electrician already had a good relationship with the county, and same thing with the plumber, it made things a lot easier. So when I coach new agents about how relationships matter in real estate, it really does, because had I had an electrician that was known to cut corners, then that would have been a problem. Same thing with on the plumbing side. Okay, and at the end of the day, it took a couple more weeks to get permitted and inspected, but at the end of the day, everything was right, and we delayed settlement until that was done. And I knew that at settlement, it was done, no issues, and we didn't have any problems. And so, the biggest thing I would counsel you is, make sure you do it right and don't make that mistake. Okay. Now the second thing, remember that beam I told you about in the living room. Well, it was never my intention to take down that wall in the kitchen or mess with that beam. If I did, I have a structural engineer. I would have had to get a structural engineer involved and make sure all the calculations were okay for that to happen. Now, what's interesting is there was a delay between me contacting the county and for me to get permits and be able to inspect it. And that delay is, believe it or not, they have all the plans from the builders, even 20, 30 years ago. And so that's what they were researching, was exactly how that house was constructed so that they knew that I didn't take down any kind of load bearing walls. And so hopefully you learn a valuable lesson there. When you go in and you're doing a flip, and you're a real estate agent, the scrutiny on you is tremendous. The liability is there, and so if you do everything right according to the book, at the end of the day, even when there's problems, I always think of it as going to the judge and saying, "Hey, this is what I did. I pulled permits. I had it inspected. I had licensed contractors. I did the best that I could do." Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so that was huge, like, you know, huge learning lesson, even with all the years of experience as a contractor. I thought in the bottom of my heart that as long as I disclosed, Maryland's a disclose, disclose, disclose type of state. I thought as long as I disclosed, I was good. And I am so glad that early in my career of flipping houses, that just this one little statement from this guy that maybe he would have pulled permits or didn't, but I think God was helping me in that case where it was a good wake up call to say, you should have done that in the beginning. I mean, and trust me, I wasn't doing it to save money. I was doing it on a speed issue. When we're jamming through houses in 3 weeks, well, you got to know what you're doing. Um, so hopefully that helps. I know in other parts of the country, like when you replace windows or roofs or things like that, um, things are required to be permitted and inspected and that sort of thing. From what I've heard, Maryland's obviously what I'm going to counsel you on is just check with the local county because every county's different, right? But again, hopefully that was helpful for you guys to hear. And don't make the same mistake because there was
Yeah,
a lot of sleepless nights. Trust me
yeah, I
on
bet.
that. Okay, so real quick, I want to jam through this a little bit so that we can get to the other case study real quick. Profit loss. I wanted to detail just all the costs here so that you guys could get an idea of exactly what it costs to hold a property, even if it's just for a few months. Okay, this so this actually we did it in 3 months, but I held this property because I was doing another one at the time on February 19th, and then June 2019. Take that back. We extended settlement to accommodate the inspections. Everything was done, but I had a problem with one of the inspectors now that I'm remembering. Sorry about that. Um, you can look at the settlement charges. I document all this for my accountant so that he has it really clear on the left-hand side. You'll see the settlement charges. So in this case, I had a first trust with an investor. I also had a second trust with another investor for the renovation costs. I bought it for 160. The renovation was 40. And I also had legal, an attorney to do the deed of trust and promissory notes. In Maryland, I have it separate from the title person, and I pay out of pocket for that. And the reason why I do that is so everything's above board legal. I want my investors to be secured against the property, and I don't want any legal issues if something arises. So if I had the title company do that rather than an attorney, there could be some insurability issues if something came up. So hopefully I'm not glossing over that so quickly, but don't be afraid to spend money to do something right. That's the major takeaway on this stuff. Okay. The home warranty to Old Republic, I told you if you get into this, make sure you get a home warranty. I'm gonna go back to that right hand side in a minute. And here are all the costs. So you can see on the left hand side and the right hand side, these are all the construction costs of uh, every possible trade, and then also the commission charges. And then when I buy property, I'm assuming that I'm going to give a seller credit. So like I told you, the ARV should be based on fixing the property back where it is. um, Figure out what your seller credit to the buyer potentially could be, what the commission would be for the buyer's agent, your holding costs, and all the construction costs as well. So here are all the costs here. I won't go into all of it unless you had a question. But even like
I
HOA
think just
fees.
well, Doug was mentioning uh, the formula like for the purchase price using the ARV.
Okay, so yeah, different class. Some people do 70% minus renovation costs. And the
And Jason,
calculation
just
that
to add in there, our buy boxes, most of them, not all of them, but most of them will have a formula like that. It'll say ARV
yeah,
minus repairs. 70%
yeah.
ARV minus repairs. So that just to let
So
everyone know it's should be written in the buy box.
yeah, so if you do 70% of the ARV minus repairs, you're 9 times out of 10 you're going to be okay with that. The reason why I take a little different approach is I figure what can I sell this property for? What can are the renovation costs? What are my holding costs? And I plan on 8 months, by the way. Even though I do these in 3 months, I mean the market could go
Just
sideways,
in
and I plan
case.
every
Yeah.
single one 8 months. And then the commission for the buyer's agent, the seller credit, the construction costs, my what the closing costs for to buy the property, and then also the closing cost to sell the property. All of that gets figured in. So, a lot of times, well, I'll just let's go back to it, and you'll get a perspective here. So my all of my renovation costs, just on the renovation side, okay, everything was $87,000. Okay, so, oh, sorry, that also includes holding costs. Sorry. So it even includes these costs up here on the, I went back to the slide on the settlement and on the mortgage payments. So I actually had this. I think I listed it for 285, and then it got bid up to 305, and then the purchase was 160, as I told you. And then minus the closing costs or the holding costs, which holding costs, renovation costs, everything all in from soup to nuts, 87K, a little bit more than that. So, in the 50s. And that's I look at that as a win every day of the week. I mean, for something that
And
from soup to
Jason,
nuts for
Doug
a
asked
couple
kind of
months. Yeah.
about how you acquired the property, so he was just wondering how many offers did you have to make to get one accepted? So you said this was somebody you knew at church?
Yeah, so all of my stuff is organic. And so literally if I can get in front of somebody, and actually this was owner finance too. I forgot to mention that. So the way this worked was 160, I pitched the price and I did an Excel spreadsheet of exactly how I came up to 160 based on what I told you guys, what I think I could sell it for, what the holding cost would be, what the construction cost would be, and what I think she could walk, what the total she could walk away with. Um, and in that scenario, based on that, I said I could pay 160. And I asked her if she wanted to finance it. And so, a couple things you'll have to walk most people through that owner finance deal. And one of the things that I was taught early on is if most people aren't going to bite on that right away, they need to process that because they've never even heard about owner financing in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked her to talk to her accountant about it. Okay. And she financed 160 at 7%. That's how that worked out to be. Now, I have private investors that I pay 12%. And I don't mind paying 12% because I know I'm in and out of a property very, very quick, generally 3 months. So I don't mind giving a little bit of extra because I have the background in construction. You might not want to be that aggressive in this type of market where you can get cheaper money, but I want to keep investors engaged and happy with making really, really good money.
That's pretty
Yes.
funny because remember how we talked yesterday and I told you I did the private money loans in my own town for people to do renovations? I gave them
Yeah.
the money, I was a lender, and it was 12%. So how weird is that it is kind of a
Yeah.
standard number across the US?
Well, I know where you can get it for 9 and even 6%. Okay, but again, I want everything for me is relationships.
Yeah,
So
totally.
I want to go back to the same investors and say, hey, and I just did that today where I have three other deals coming up. I said, are you guys interested in something like this? And of course, the answer is yes. I mean, at 12% in this type of where the market's so choppy and it's secured against real estate, it's a good win-win, I think.
So you're private
So
investors because Doug was asking about that. So you just kind of it's people you know and you just figured out that they had an interest in real estate and would be happy to give you loan you money, or how did that
Yeah,
happen?
so actually, this one investor I'm talking about, there are hard money loans out there that if you're interested in this, you can check what's called RIA, which is REIA. Your local RIA group, if you get involved with that, hopefully as this pandemic ends, you can network with people and you'll find hard money lenders there. So the small renovation for 40,000 is actually a hard money loan, and most because I have a relationship with this money guy, because I saw him at all these events, he did a second trust, which is extremely unusual for a second
Mm-hmm.
for a hard money loan. They want the whole thing. In that case, it was 12% and 3 points. Okay, but again, 3 points on $40,000 is 1,200 bucks. It is what it is. And so what else can I tell you on that? Oh, so when I was at this RIA group, I've been part of it for 20 plus years, I guess, and I know the founding member very well. He asked me to present one time. Remember how I told you guys that I fix up houses and list them for people? I actually showed an example of exactly one of those properties, okay, of exactly how we went through the process and listed it and staged it and all that stuff. And I had somebody in the group, in that RIA group, approach me and say, hey, she lived in my neighborhood, unbeknown to me, and asked if she could meet me for coffee. And I said, sure. And we sat down, and she asked me point blank if I was ever looking for investors. And I was like, yeah, you know? And so it's funny. I always teach this to new agents that are trying to learn how to flip. Money finds good deals. So when you have a spread like this, and I'm telling you, hey, for $160,000, will you fund this deal that I think I can sell at 350? You know, if I fall flat on my face, well, you get the property back. Sure, it's a good win-win. And that's also why I have a separate attorney to say, hey, if I don't make payments when I'm supposed to make payments, they have the right. They can foreclose on me. I want to give them that right. Does all that make sense?
Yeah. So since we have this other property to look at, are we going to do like a speed round on that one? And
We can
what
skip
do you want
that.
to do?
We can skip that if you want, but can I just go through a couple photos because we're getting close to the time. I want you to. I'm going to show you some. Yeah, let me just buzz through the photos real
Okay.
quick so that people can understand what a really scary property looks like.
And just so everybody knows, I'm going to post a PDF document that has all of the pictures, so you can go into them in detail later.
Yeah. All right. So this is Middle Road. This was from a probate attorney that knew me. Again, when you start having a reputation of the go-to guy to solve problems, organically things start coming to you.
It's funny you
So
say that,
this is
Jason, because last time we talked to Julie Clark, she said we were. What did she say, Terry? That we were solutions providers. I can't even
that's all we
remember
are.
what she said.
Yes.
It was good. It goes right
All
along with
right.
what you're saying.
That's
Yep.
right. Trusted advisors and problem solvers. That's what we do.
Yep.
So notice the grass, the color of the siding, trees, horrible. What
Clutter.
lady actually died and her son had this for a long time. Is this loading on your end?
Yeah, we can. I can see it at least. If anybody can't see it, make sure you just refresh your screen.
Yeah, Jason, we've got about 5 minutes left just to be
Yep.
respectful of anybody's time.
Yep.
So yeah, just a time check for you.
Yep.
The
Okay.
basement is hideous. That ceiling. That's creepy. That wallpaper.
Here are some after photos.
Way cleaner.
Yeah.
I like the color that she uses to stage.
Yep. So you'll see the same sort of colors of the floor and the walls, and
I
then
love the cabinets here
yep,
too, where you guys decided to go with the two-tone.
yep, and we cut them, and then what we'll do is we'll do the new tops on the vanities, but we'll
Mm-hmm.
keep the vanities depending if they're odd sizes.
That looks
Um,
way brighter and cleaner.
yeah, and basement. We
Nice.
didn't have any permit issues there, so hopefully, and this one actually made we don't have time to go into this, but this made over 100. So again, I did $50,000 worth of renovations. I could have done 100, and I just kept it tight and really respected. When you start using other people's money, you really need to have a good idea of your budget. So a trick might be if you get into this flipping stuff is any kind of renovation money, keep a separate bank account of just that renovation money, nothing else, so that I get everything funded in a chunk, and I know that hey, as I'm going down, I start making really strategic decisions of yeah, I'd like to do that. Like on this last house on Middle Road, I'd love to do a new roof. That doesn't bring me any value, and it doesn't increase the price, so I didn't.
And it wasn't
Same thing.
needed.
Yeah, well, that could be questionable.
Okay.
And I mean, it wasn't leaking. Let's put it that way. I mean, it
Yeah.
was old. And mechanical system, same thing. I mean, it was working, so we just left it. So hopefully, does anybody have any questions? I'm sorry to do a lot of talking on this thing, but I thought it was important for you guys to see what these photos were.
Just so your expenses there for our video.
Great session. Thanks for coming.
Yeah,
Thank
was
you.
this helpful? Was this helpful? Is this new, seeing properties in conditions like this?
Yeah, that's very good. But how does this tie into express offers, Julie?
Oh, well, the whole point was just to get like the mindset of what the investor is looking at, because I
Oh,
think
okay.
agents are really
That's what I thought. I
naive.
wasn't
Yeah,
sure.
okay. Because I just think agents are kind of, some of us are a little bit naive because I do both. I invest and I am an agent, but most of us don't realize the holding costs that are involved, like mortgage payments that you're still going to have to make, or, these hard money loans. It depends on what they do. Obviously, in express offers, we don't allow hard money loans on our iBuyers. They're all cash buyers, so you don't have to worry about that when you're representing express offers. No lines of credits and all that. But as a, small investor yourself, you might use those instruments, right? And I saw Doug had a question actually about what type of security instrument for the investor do you use, Jason, when you do the seller finance deal?
Yeah, so I get a deed of trust and promissory note that's provided by a licensed attorney, and then it's attached to the property.
And in Colorado, when I do lending, when I lend to people, as a, I don't call it hard money because I hate that word, but as a private lender, and I lend, I always go to our title company here. We don't use attorneys here for that. So I just have to go to the title company and get a deed of trust and a promissory note. And then as soon as the deal is finished and I'm paid back at closing, because I'm like a nice investor, so I stay on top of the project. That's why I only do local stuff. And I'll go to the project, keep an eye on it, and help the people as they do their project management. And then when I get paid back at the closing, after that, I have to go to the clerk and recorder and say that the note has been paid. That's kind of how it works in Colorado. So different everywhere you live, I know, but kind of the general overall idea of how this stuff works. So any other questions for Jason?
Feel free to friend me on Facebook. Let's network. I can be a resource for you as you're kind of journey, getting through this journey. I've seen all types of stages of this process. So however I can help, just friend me on Facebook. That's the best way to get in touch with me.
All right. Well,
Thanks again for coming. Great
yeah,
session.
thanks.
Good
Thanks a
looking
lot.
properties.
Yeah, you did a great
Finished,
job, huh?
finished pictures.
And I saw too that you guys wanted to know like some of the paint colors and stuff, so I'll get
Oh
that
yeah, I love
information.
that because
Yeah, I'll get it
the
from
color
Jason.
scheme looked really good.
Yeah, I liked it too. It was really neutral. Yeah, so we'll get that from Jason and I will put that in the post along with a link to the PDF so you guys can, take more time to look at the photos, look at his
Thank
profit
you.
and loss and all that stuff. And just want to say thank you so much, Jason, who has also brought us in an investor in his area. So he's brought in an iBuyer to the platform, so we also appreciate that. And Terry, did you have any thoughts on the end here?
No, Julie, thanks for taking lead on this. I really appreciate it. I'm kind of down this week, guys, just so you know. Jason, you did a fantastic job. So bravo, my friend. And hopefully agents learned a lot today. And Julie, you're going to post the recording too?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for
Thank
joining us
you. Thanks
today.
everyone for coming. I'm going to stop the recording now.